Welcome to Dads and Dollars podcast with your host, Stanley Funches, certified financial planner, business owner, author, speaker, and father of three. Listen as Stanley shares his valuable insights around fatherhood and finances gained from over 20 plus years of experience. You'll hear stories, lessons learned, and the ups and downs he and his guests have encountered on their journeys as fathers, professionals, and business owners. These shared lessons will help provide you a path for financial independence while celebrating the challenges of being a dad. Thank you for joining the conversation. Here's your host, Stanley Funches.
Welcome to Dads and Dollars, a podcast where fatherhood and finances are woven into many life topics. My name is Stanley Funches. I'm a certified financial planner by profession and a father of three in this thing called life. We are glad you could join us for season 1, episode 13. And in this episode, we're going to have a conversation with somebody who's really special to me. We're going to talk about young adulthood. So sit back and let's get the party started. All right, everyone. So we're going to have a segment today, Dads and Daughters. So I want to welcome Ashli Funches to the podcast. She's actually the voice of Dads and Dollars. Ashli is doing our intro and outro, if you didn't know. She is also now the first woman on our podcast. So without further ado, I want to welcome my daughter, Ashli Funches, to the podcast. Ashli, welcome.
Hi.
Ashli, so you want to be shy now, but tell everyone about what you're doing now, in any recent events in your life. Kind of update everybody.
Okay. I live in Chicago. I'm currently auditioning, and my birthday was yesterday.
Your birthday, you were 23 years old. Wow. Somebody's getting old.
It does feel like it. Yep. How does it feel to be a dad of a 23-year-old? Do you feel really old?
I'm in denial. That's not me yet. I haven't gotten there. You're just 23. I'm not the dad of a 23-year-old. But yeah, so for people who didn't know, Ashli is a recent graduate of DePaul University with a degree in dual major, fine arts and African diaspora.
Ooh, you said it.
Yep. And so...
Do you know what the diaspora means, Dad?
Of course.
What does it mean?
That means people of African descent that are across the world.
Oh, okay. I was asking because I didn't know what it means. Most people don't know what it means. So.
Okay. Yes. So people who out there who are listening and didn't know that, now they know. So Ashli, being a recent graduate, so what is life like for you right now? And this is Dads and Dollars, so we can talk about it from a financial standpoint, from an experience standpoint. You got a lot of parents out there who have kids who are young adults, kids who are going to be young adults, and you have a lot of young adults listening to the podcast as well. So what's life like for you right now in the big city?
Yeah, it feels very big right now. College was, there's a lot more structure. And so now there's kind of like, what do you want to do? And I want to do everything. So it's a little hectic right now.
Okay. So you want to do everything, like as far as with work or with activities, or when you say want to do everything, what do you mean?
I think like I'm used to being in a conservatory environment where you have something to do from like 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, and it's all scheduled and laid out for you. And so I think being out of that, I kind of revert back and I'm like, I have to have something to do at all times of the day. And so, but I think being older, it's like, what are your actual goals, which is what I'm trying to focus on. What do I want to do? And am I filling my time with things that serve me as opposed to just filling my time?
So it's one of those things like time management, right? I mean,
Yeah.
How do you manage your time? How are you managing your life right now?
Yeah.
And that's a challenge for people who are 30 years older than you as well. So I So I can imagine it being a big challenge now for you. What are some of the things, like I would guess from a financial standpoint that's different that you see that are maybe challenges or opportunities?
I think it's interesting because I feel like being, not that I was ever broke in college, but being broke in college looks a lot different than being like a young adult trying to figure things out. I think because in college, again, there's just like a lot more structure, and there's like, you're not worried about the basic necessities all the time. At least I wasn't. And so coming out of college, it's been really crazy because um I think from a financial standpoint, again, it's kind of the same way with the time management. It's like, what am I spending my money on? What are my goals that I'm spending my money on? How do I make money? I think the conversation I've had with like a lot of my friends is, well, like, we figured out how to survive and you'll make enough for rent and like all that stuff. But you have the same amount of money every month and you're not like making anymore. So that's my biggest thing right now, is trying to figure out how to start making money.
Okay. Because you're in the world of theater and acting and arts is more, it's not necessarily like a steady salary where you're working at an office or a desk, right? And so that creates a challenge in and of itself, right?
Yeah, it's difficult because I mean, DePaul prepares you. There's a lot of acclaim that goes into it. So like the opportunities, it's not like the opportunities are not vast, because I feel like a lot of people I talk to who don't understand, what it means to be in the arts, they think, oh, you're not going to have a job, and that's not true. I think there are lots of opportunities that I get, but they're random. They are not stable. So it's like, 3 weeks ago I had a gig. I get paid $700 for that gig. Okay, that's rent. That's awesome. But then you go through a dry spell for 2 or 3 weeks where like somebody hasn't asked you to do something. So it's like I feel like I do a little bit of everything. Like I teach, I act, I audition. I'm a florist. I'm training to be a florist right now. Yeah, so there's just always a lot of things on the plate.
Yeah. So you have to be flexible and creative in how you're making your dollars to make ends meet, so to speak, or to take care of your expenses and everything.
Yeah, but I think there's also like a spiritual element to it, because like I don't feel like I've ever like needed anything. Like I feel like God takes care of it. I it just, there's a lot of stress that comes with that. Like when you don't know that it's going to be taken care of.
Oh, for sure. For sure. All right. So what are some of those things that you would say kind of growing up that, I mean, somewhat gave you some preparedness for this, or that you say, hey, this was a good thing that I had when I was growing up that now I can transfer to this, kind of unstructured time?
This is when I say good job, Dad, on this and this.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying that.
Um, I think I think I grew up similarly to what I was talking about with the conservatory environment. I feel like y'all provided a lot of structure. I think I there was a goal to every day, and that that was kind of created for me, and I kind of still have that mindset now. Like even though I'm not really sure long term my goals yet, I know that I need to get something done today. Like what can I get done today? What is that? What can I grow from? And I feel like I was pretty prepared to start from the beginning. Like I feel like um I don't I don't feel like I don't have the support to be able to kind of grind. And I think I definitely learned that growing up is um how do you consistently pursue goals? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and from a financial standpoint, I guess having two, I mean, we're probably two goal-oriented driven parents. I mean, that you kind of get that through osmosis, right? But also, I would say just from a financial standpoint, and you can tell me if this is, I mean, I think your mom probably instilled more of the saving part to what you're having to do to try to figure
Yeah.
out.
Mom has a mom has a thing. She used to do it. We had lunch money, and we had a set amount of lunch money every month that we had to get. And I still look back at like one of the best lessons I ever learned as a kid is how to draw out that lunch money and how to like I guess, play it too, because it was like, at the end of the day, sometimes I want to get breakfast. Sometimes I want to get a snack. I'm going to overspend how much lunch money I have. So, how do I do that this week? And in the next week, don't spend any of it and just like figure out how I'm going to stretch it. So I think, yeah, it's stuff like that where I am not worried, about the basic things, because I kind of already know, how do I take a set amount of money and how do I stretch it as long as possible?
Yeah. And also, like, so I think part of the transition from survival mode that you have to kind of figure out too is, how do you keep putting money back, right? How do you get to a point where you're actually saving first, and then kind of working with the rest.
Yeah, because another thing you and mom taught me, I feel like I'm like, my financial planner Chad taught me this and this and this.
No,
But
I was, like I said, I would give more credit to your mom than me. I mean, I was probably.
Yeah, but you were like big. I feel like you were like big picture, like, and then she sometimes was like the execution of what that looks like. And I think, oh, there was another thing I was gonna say, something else that we did that was like very, very good for. Oh, always saving. Something that mom would tell me and that you'd always say, you always have to save like 20%. And I find that what I have to make sure I do, like as soon as I get a job, is not just like be like, oh, I'm gonna save, because I might get paid for that job and be really scrambling for money and I want to, Uber eat something that day. But like going ahead and as soon as I get the job, saying I need a certain amount of money in my savings account. And I feel like that helps me a lot because I automatically have money just going to my savings account every month. I don't have to think about it. And it helps me not touch it. It helps me not deal with it. And then I have built a larger savings. So I also thought that was something that was really helpful.
And I think part of, and so I would say something that's funny here. I mean, I think you got being, we joke about you being the firstborn, right? And you having it a little harder than your brothers. You feel like that you had it a little bit harder than they did. But I think that you probably got those lessons probably deeper than they did as well. So because their behaviors are not the same as yours, or they didn't execute the lunch money all the way like you had to, because we were more intense with you.
Yeah, y'all were strict.
And I mean, that's one way to put it. So they may not have developed all of those things that you have. I mean, so
TJ definitely didn't. He came to visit Chicago and he was out of money by like the first, and he had a lot of it, and he had so much of it, and he was like, Ashley, I have $20. And I was like, how do you have $20 in your bank account and you came with all this money? He's like, oh, me and Bowman, we did this and that. I was like, yeah, I'm way more educated.
Well, look, you're the firstborn of two firstborns, so I think that it comes with the good and the bad. So what are some of the things, I mean, you mentioned earlier some of the things your friends, or just so we as parents and again, other young people who are listening to podcasts can identify, what are some of the things that you guys in today's world, what are you thinking about from a financial standpoint? Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, a lot of times when I like bring up this podcast because you tell me to my friends, they tell me, they always bring up credit card debt. I think I don't think I have a lot of friends that don't have some sort of credit card debt right now. And I personally did not experience that. I never got a credit card. Yeah, I just didn't do that. But I do think like, especially like, one of my closest friends is like first generation and he's trying to support his parents, and like he has a lot of credit card debt. And so figuring out how to continually support people, but also like getting your credit card debt down, I found to be like a really big topic of conversation.
Yeah. And so I think that's where, as far as generations, and we all try to focus on, that's something that your mom and I had to deal with early, because we were basically, put ourselves through school. And so we had to deal with that type of stuff. And so we didn't want you guys, or when you guys ask us, hey, I want to get a credit card, we like, no, you don't need a credit card, right? Because right now you are doing just like you said, you're trying to make sure you take care of your expenses. What a credit card typically does, it incentivizes you to overspend, right? Because it's just a piece of plastic that you can swipe. So instead of you limiting your number of Uber Eats, right, saying, okay, hey, I can only do one, you got a credit card, you're like, I got $1,000 balance on this thing. Let me, I can keep, and then it piles up as you keep swiping it, and then it creates an extra layer, another expense onto your budget. So not only do you have rent, car insurance, all that, utilities, food, gas, now you got to make a credit card payment for something that you bought 4 months ago, and you don't even know what it is anymore. And so, so credit card is the trap that gets young people. I mean, it impacts older people who are not managing their finances well either, but it is the ultimate trap for young people.
But also, like, it's one of those things, I feel like there's also a lot of benefits that help people who don't know if they're going to have the money. Like, because like I had one friend who had enough American Airlines or whatever, or no, American Express points that they were able to like get a flight home for like no money because they had a credit card.
Yeah, that has to be something else there, because so in order for you to get a flight on American Express card, you got to be spending a whole lot of money on it. And American Express is different. I mean, sometimes it depends on what type of card it is, but mostly it's a charge card. So with American Express, you have to pay it off every month. So you still can overspend on that thing, but you can, most American Express cards, you have to, like, if I have $800 on there, I got to write a check for $800 to pay that off that month. I can't spread the payments over time.
Oh, and most
That's
credit
a
cards
charge card.
That shows how much I know about credit cards. I don't.
Yeah.
But most credit cards you have to spread. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and so it's a difference between a charge card and a credit card. A credit card is, I can, if my limit is $2,000, I can spend up to $2,000 on that thing, and then I have to pay like $70, $80 extra a month. But I get charged like this unbelievably high interest. I get charged like 19, 20% interest. So in any given year, that $2,000 is going to cost me an extra $400 through the course of the year. And so if you paying $400 just on interest, and the card never, it will hardly ever go down in balance. And then people go get another credit card when they max out the one. So yeah, it's definitely can be a quagmire.
And I was also thinking about, because you were talking about generations, and I do think generations when it comes to money is like really, really important, because like I said, my friend who's first generation, that's the experience he's having. And I think like, as I guess you would call me like a second generation, because you and mom were the first people to put yourselves through school. I think it's like it is a whole different thing. And like me and my friend talk about it at this like all the time, that we are having like separate experiences as to like what we understand and like how we're trying to grow. Because I feel like as a second generation, it's more about independence, and it's more about trying to find it at the right pace, and like still having support, because like that is the beautiful thing, that I have parents that can support me, but also how do I make sure that I'm taking the steps to be an independent person, so I'm not leaning on you guys too long or too much. And then like, so I feel like I find that to be kind of a real kind of like, it's more worry than anything else. Like there's no like, what am I going to do this month? But it's like, okay, how do I push myself this month to be a more independent person?
Yeah, and it's a different type of stress, right? It's not stressless.
Yeah,
it's just a different type of stress. And some people would argue the fact that, hey, it is more stressful if I got to worry about what I'm going to eat,
yeah,
versus whether I am going to eat, right? Like so I think that, but that I think that's the whole importance too, for every family unit to try to maximize what they're doing financially, right? So even if you don't have a lot, and you're a husband and wife, or your partner team or whatever, and you have kids, and even if you don't have a lot, it is so important for you to build some level of foundation of savings, so that when the next generation comes through, they'll feel some sort of security in that they will eat, and that they're trying not to be independent adults in a different fashion.
Yep, Ronies.
Yeah. So, all right. So credit cards are a big thing that you and your friends talk about and everything. what are some of the things that you've learned? If you can pick out one or two things that you've learned that you like, hey, that was just so very important, and I'm gonna stick it away because this is something I didn't know when I was growing up. What are some of those things?
Oh, that I didn't know that I was when I was growing up.
Yeah, that you've learned thus far that like you like, oh man, I didn't know that.
Well, I think, yeah, like I think the benefit of my childhood is that I had a lot of structure, and that enabled me to, I think, like be an artist now because I can lean on the structure that I learned about, but also kind of be more free flowing. So I think what I'm like learning now as an adult is how to be free flowing and be okay. So like I think there's a lot more spirituality that comes to freelancing, you know, because that worry can still be there. I can create that worry for myself, but at the end of the day, like I have to trust in God or like a higher power that that there's going to be an opportunity that's going to come in that's going to work it out. And as long as I make sure I have the baseline things, what comes to me will come. And I think that that has been like a really big journey for me because the jobs that I'm getting are very different from the jobs that you and mom were getting. So it's harder for you guys to kind of explain how to do that. And so that is what's happening to me, is that I'm realizing that that jobs are coming and going, and how to balance that and how to groove with that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, and that's kind of the difference in this generation too. Like, so when your mom and I came out of school, our thing was we were trying to go and move to go work in corporate America. That was the thing, right? You didn't piece your incomes together. You didn't have the gig economy. You know, you went to get a job that had salary and benefits. But for your generation, that's different, right? Even for people who are not in the arts field, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are doing things because they want that independence from corporate America, right? Do you see that a lot too for people that may not? I know you might not have a lot of friends who are not in the arts business, but do
Oh
you?
no, no, yeah. I mean, that's what I said. I grew up with structure, so most of my friends actually are not as artistry as you think. But I think what's really interesting is like my friends who want a job have it, like the people who want that consistent kind of thing have it. But I do think, you know, we graduated during the time of the pandemic, so like we had just spent 2 years, I mean, sitting down. You know, I wasn't um even if we're in school and stuff like that, we're not working at the same pace anymore. And so I think that like that's important to like acknowledge, because it's like, okay, me working 5 days a week, you know, going to and from work, I'm operating on such a different pace because I'm used to being online and setting my own schedule. And even as an actor going to school during the pandemic, it was like, okay, I was like, okay, I'm going to warm up by myself now. Okay, we're not doing that online, but I'm doing it in my time. I'm going to go in and I'm going to start acting in my time. So I do think that there's this ownership over time that's very different, because, you know, there's a different understanding as to how to move about that. So I do think gigs are much more important, but I do still have friends that are very much worried about getting a 9 to 5 job. And most of them, it takes a very long time to find.
Yeah, I think I mean, you coined a term there. I mean, I think that ownership of time, you know, you'll hear in the news and you'll hear people talk about, you know, oh, young people or people aren't working anymore. People aren't, you know, these jobs are having, you know, issues hiring people and getting good talent. But I think what you just said is one of the main reasons is that people are working. They're just is more fragmented and they want to have ownership of their time. It's their time. They claim it. They realized during the pandemic that it's my time. I can claim it however I want to, and I can still go make a living piecing it together.
Yeah, because I think there's an understanding that I can get a project done not in the time that you've given me. Like that doesn't a project can happen and can get done on my schedule. And because my friends who I know who have the best jobs are working predominantly online. They're getting up, they're making a coffee. My best friend Jose, we're talking on the phone for 2 hours and he's at work working for Chicago Public Schools, you know, like it's not that work is not getting done. But he might do it at 9 o'clock at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that is the biggest difference, is that my generation is definitely shooting for online or jobs that allow you to remain independent.
Yeah. So one of the things I would say too for your generation and for you is, reading books on time management. Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a good book, but there's a lot of time management books out there. I think that's great. I mean, reading books on goals and reading books on financial planning and financial.
To read. Just tell me the information.
Well, no, but sometimes you got to orient yourself, right? So like your friends or listen to podcasts. I mean, not necessarily mine, but there are so many good podcasts out there on each one of those topics that we just talked about. So if they don't have time to read or do an audio book, that would be because you have to ground yourself. A lot of times it's grounding yourself and shifting paradigms. So if they don't have if your friends don't have the experience of financial background or what to do, or want to learn more about how to, avoid credit card, purgatory or whatever, they have to orient themselves by trying to find information from credible sources. Books are, sometimes you find you're a good credible author, then that's great. You find you a good credible podcast, and that's great. Even if you listen to audiobooks. So I definitely would say, hey, that's for you and for them. That would be a big help for you guys.
Well, I'll find a podcast and I'll let y'all know which one I decide.
All right. So as we wrap up, what's next for you?
What's next?
Yes. What's next? You got to have the goal. What's next?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess that's true. Mm-hmm. I'm working on several things right now. I want to be able to get a yoga certification. I want to go back and get my master's in acting again, so I can have another degree I don't need. And I want to do regional theater very, very badly. So hope and manifest for me that I get some regional theater soon.
Well, pray and keep speaking it and have faith, and it will happen. So, all right. Well, anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
I was trying to think of something embarrassing to say about it.
No, that's okay. All right. So thank you, Ashli, for joining us on Dads and Dollars. We appreciate everyone joining us for this episode. As we can say, you can find us on, any of the podcast channels, and you can make sure you share the podcast, make sure you rate us, review us. We really would love 5 stars. So if you could take the time to go out and do that, and we'll see you on our next episode of Dads and Dollars.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Dads and Dollars. If you found the information shared today valuable, please share with your friends and family via your social media. If you have a request for a future financial topic for Dads and Dollars, please email us at ask@dadsanddollars.com. For further information on your financial journey, you may purchase The Quest for Financial Independence, 10 areas of your financial planning you should not ignore, by visiting our website, dadsanddollars.com. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax and legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance reference is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to make a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. Asset allocation does not ensure a profit or protect against a loss. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of these strategies. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Guests and their companies are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Intellis Advisory Group. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Advisory services offered through Intellis Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Intellis Advisory Group and Intellis Wealth Management are separate entities from LPL Financial.